What I'm going to talk about today is an activity that I have done in classes in order to elicit some really interesting and meaningful conversation that we will often revisit through the rest of the semester. Now, typically this is an activity that I do in a class called Concepts of Community, which first-year students take their second semester at college. They have already taken a course called Concepts of Self by that point, and they have thought about things including what it means to be raised in a more individualistic versus collective culture. So we're moving into community. And before I do this classroom activity, I typically will have them complete a survey in which we talk about pretty early on in the class, like whether everybody who works hard should get a B, about whether the value of their classmates to the class is important, about whether the success of their classmates matters. I asked them to respond to the notion that they may belong to the most narcissistic generation ever. We look at Robert Putnam's seminal article, Bowling Alone, and think about things like social capital. So sort of get them thinking about what it means to be part of a community, specifically a classroom community, and how they think about each other. And then I do this activity. So for this activity, you need a deck of cards. It's really a modified version of the prisoner's dilemma. And what I do is I give every student one black card and one red card. And I tell them that they cannot speak to their classmates and they have to make a decision about which card they're going to keep. The way it works is, I'm going to write this down, is if everybody in the class keeps their red card, nobody in the class gets any points. If everyone keeps their black card, everyone in the class gets 3 points. If some people keep black, and some people keep red, then the people with the black cards get 1 point, and the people with the red card get 5 points. So I'll show you this. I don't know if this shows up. And when I talk about points here, now this is where you have to be a little bit willing to, kind of live on the edge. I tell them that this is points added to their final grade for the semester. So what that means is that there's a possibility that some students in the class may end up with 5 points added to their final grade, elevating their semester grade from, for example, a B+ to an A, if they had an 89. So the stakes are high. So they have to make this decision, and I have never had a class where everybody kept the black card and all the students got 3 points, and I have never had a class where everybody has kept the red card and nobody receives any points. It is always a combination of black and red, and after the decision has been made and I collect the card that they don't want, the students have to reveal to their classmates which card they kept. And then you can imagine from there the conversation that ensues. Because the way students thought about this is quite interesting and different. And some students feel very disappointed in the ethical compass of their classmates and the fact that their classmates don't really look for what's best collectively versus individually. And other students play the odds, and other students say, hey, you could have made the same choice as me. And so it ends up being a really awesome conversation. So like I said, I usually do that in Concepts of Self, but last week, sort of impromptu in the middle of a classroom discussion in my Human Rights and Responsibilities class, I did this again. And the reason why was that we were discussing Singer's solution to world poverty and the question about whether or not we should, we have an obligation to others to donate extra money that we have for luxuries in order to save starving children. And the conversation discussion sort of pursued in an interesting way, so I decided to try this prisoner's dilemma with them in that class, and it worked out really well. And then some of the students started talking about whether, well, maybe we could donate some of the points that we received, so it got really complicated, and I gave everybody a sticky note, and by the end of class I had handfuls of sticky notes where students had written comments about how they felt about other people in their class, how they felt about the activity. I'll just share a couple of quotes to give you a sense of how this activity can really lead to interesting discussion. So in this class, students could donate points if they wanted to. It was pretty far into the semester. One student specifically donated points to 4 individual students for their salient and insightful contributions to the student discussion in class. One student gave his points back, saying, what I get is what I earn. If I don't earn it, I don't get it. And so he just gave his points back to me. A student said, this reminds me of a J-drama game called Liar Game. Another student said, listening to people say things like, I don't need the points and I don't want the points, is like listening to the wealthy say they don't need the money. Someone said, I feel no guilt and I don't feel obligated. Everyone should have the opportunity to reach the top. This is like the rich who don't have to work as hard as the poor. But maybe the poor, or the people with less work, can at least work their way up the food chain by writing a short essay for you. Somebody who kept all their 5 points said they must remain competitive in the market. Someone said, I don't understand why people are getting points for doing nothing at all. And one student wrote, I just feel so disappointed. We just finished having a conversation about our moral obligation to human beings, and then this happened. So you can get a sense as the instructor, you can take this any direction you want, but I thought I'd share that activity because I have never had it not work for eliciting interesting conversation in my classroom.